Hey,
Hello?
Nick.
Hey, Tony. How you doing
Yeah, good.
today? Is that all right if we record this phone call for that? You okay with you recording the phone call?
Yeah, yeah, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. First off, I'd like to congratulate you for being awarded an Artist Fellow this year. I know you do a lot in and around Cal State Long Beach, and that's a major award. And can you tell us a little bit about it?
Institution, well, every year people are nominated for the award, and the people that are nominated have to apply. And I think what's interesting about it is that it cuts across all the arts and letters, so it's authors, poets, singers, songwriters, musicians, conductors, filmmakers, and then from across all the visual arts, and so it's and performing arts, so it's really comprehensive. And this year there was 45 fellows picked, and they were each given a very handsome cash award, and then the opportunity to get together for 3 days in Chicago and share with one another and be presented their awards. And so I think the thing about it that's very interesting to me in particular is that for someone like me who's been in the field for a long time, and the field's very small actually in many ways, it's not that big, ceramics I'm talking about. So we all know each other, especially if you've been around for a long time. You're just kind of a known entity, like it or not, good or bad. So we receive the kind of support and plaudits and applause from our community, plenty. I think the recognition and all that, we get plenty of that. What we don't see so often though is recognition from outside the field, and so that's what this is. And it really, the thing that I liked about it was that it put me on even footing in a sense. I think all the artists that were there felt this way. We were all on even footing, no matter what our practice, no matter what our identity or racial background or age or positioning in an institution or not, our financial status. We're all kind of, the playing field was leveled for a couple of days, and we all just appreciated each other and what one another does. And I really loved that about it. And I felt like it was very special. And the people that put it together worked very hard to come up with the funding to support that many artists. It's a pretty remarkable endeavor. And then all the hard work they have to do to identify the people. I think there was over 500 people who were encouraged to apply, and 45 people got awards. So it was great, and I'm very grateful. We were treated with a lot of respect, and like I said, it was very nice to get out of your bubble. I'm kind of a studio rat, so to get out of my bubble here once in a while and go share with all kinds of artists of all stripes, from top to bottom, that was really just great. Very honored.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's amazing. Did you were other people that you knew also awarded that award, or was it all new people that you were meeting at this conference?
Well, for one thing, in the cohort, the 45 member cohort of 2018 fellows, there were 4 MacArthur Award winners. That's the Genius Award, and so that's pretty lofty company. And I think for someone who's kind of comes from craft like me, to be put in a lineup, with those people, that was pretty amazing. And so yes, in the field of craft, there were 2 other people from ceramics, Julia Galloway from Montana and Patty Warashina from Seattle, who were also awarded there. And of course, I know them both pretty well. After that, I didn't know anybody. I knew of people, but I did not.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned craft. Why is craft important within the field of ceramics, and how would you define craft?
Well, craft is how materials are treated. It's how things are built, and the manner in which they're built, and the intentionality and how things are built. It's not why things are made, but it's how they're built and how materials are dealt with and used, and it really there's such a broad range, kind of within the definition of the application of craft to something, because there can be people that on the surface of it look extraordinarily sloppy and careless, but they might be very intentional, in how they're doing things, because that's the way they want it to look for a reason. And so I could even put those kind of people in the category of careful crafters if they're highly intentional and kind of living out their intentions in the work, regardless of what it looks like, versus somebody who's trying to build a Swiss watch and do it right and reproduce it and get everything down to 1/100th of an inch tolerances and make sure that all the rules of craft are engaged and upheld, and histories are upheld. So I think that's kind of what it is, and I think craft versus art. I mean, a lot of people are tired of that subject. I never get tired of it. I think it's endlessly fascinating and interesting to understand if you're a maker. And I feel like craft is something that it's part of the continuance of a history and the legacy of a history. And it's about bringing the past forward and remembering the past and honoring the past, how things should be done properly. And craft, I think, at its heart, one of the ways I understand it is that it's made. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here, but it's about reassuring the culture that things are good, things work well, things are well built, and they come from traditions that are strong. And so there's something about craft at large that is about comfort that history, that things will be good, things will be well done, that history matters, and which is very different than art. I think art's job, in part, is not to reassure. Craft reassures. Art kind of art is subversive, and art is a critique. It's a critique of something, and art typically does not want to uphold the good standing of history and wants to destroy history and say, "Look at me! Don't look at that! Look at me! I'm what matters. I'm of this moment. That's irrelevant now. I've just supplanted what used to be important, and now what I'm doing is important." And artists are kind of that way, and it's a very different mindset than craft. And so, to true crafters versus kind of true artists. So, is there all kinds of flashover boundaries in between them? Yeah, of course. Are there territories that one another engage? Yeah, of course. Is one important to the other? Yes, of course. Are they the same thing? Absolutely not. My opinion. So they're more engaged than they ever have been in some ways, and good art always takes good craft on some level. Takes some kind of craft. It's got to be there, but it's usually not what the art's about, and the art's kind of in trouble in art circles if it's about its own craft. It doesn't get to be about other things, So it's a very interesting topic. I could probably go on for a while on that, but go ahead if you've got another question.
Yeah. No, thank you. That was a very explained answer. I like that. Yeah, you recently have a show, American Moon Jars and Crucibles, on display at the Ceramics and Design Gallery in Santa Fe. Can you tell us a little bit about the show and what are some of your ideas about the American Moon Jar?
Well, the crucibles I've been making for about 10 years, So, and I've been showing them mostly in Europe, not so much here. And this is an opportunity to really feature that in an exhibition, so I did. And the American Moon Jar, the title there, something that, I mean, it's kind of an inside joke. It's not a joke, but it's inside stuff, you know, in the sense that if you're a potter, or if you know pottery history, if you know Asian ceramic art history, you'll hopefully know something about the Korean Chosun Dynasty moon jars, you know, and they are some of the most exquisite and beautiful, kind of dynamic, reserved, subtle pots, you know, in the history of Asian art, in the history of any kind of pottery, in the history of any kind of pottery. And I've always loved them, like a lot of people have. And there's a lot encoded in them because they are really shrines to Confucianist thought and belief, Confucianist belief. All of that's embodied within them the way they are. And so I always think that's interesting. As culture embeds itself in things that are made, you know, that the Korean moon jar is pretty high up on the food chain for me in terms of what's embedded in it. So I love them, and a lot of potters love them, and every now and then you see people take it on. You know, they'll make something, and they'll call it a moon jar. You know, and it's a kind of a Western iteration of that in the West anyway. A lot of Korean potters do it too, but they're kind of straight up about it. And they'll make a big round jar like a moon jar, and so I that's fine with me. I like the idea, but I wanted to make kind of my own moon jar, and so I'm making cylinders these days. And I just decided to call it American moon jar. That gave me the freedom to not have to be obedient to the orb, you know, the beautiful orb, full-bodied shape that is the Korean moon jar. And it's a way to honor it, you know, be honorific in a way, and pay homage in a way, but not make the thing. And of course, the surfaces on a lot of these crucibles is cratered and lunar landscape-like anyway, and the little rocks that are on the shelves that adorn the outside of the vessel, you know, could look like lunar landscape stuff. I wasn't caught up in that, but I was aware of it, and so I titled it that way, and I wanted to present it that way. And if anybody knows very much at all about the history of the stuff I've made over the last 30 years, I've classically made vessels, ceramic vessels that are they're based on pottery. You know, pottery. Let me put it this way: pottery is a subject matter, and the history of pottery is a subject matter, and all the things that pottery has ever been asked to do. The laundry list of, you know, beautiful things, and throughout all cultures, all time, it's a short list. That, you know, this is what we need pottery to do in our culture, and it's like it's like to the whole thing is to present. You know, in a pot, you present food, you present to preserve. If you think about kimchi jars and sauerkraut vessels that you've made, you know, those are pottery, and they're designed to preserve. It's also about beautification of a space. It's about the commemoration of an event on the surface of a lot of pots. It's about ritual. It's about, and then after that, the list gets short, you know. So there's a list of 6 or 7 things that are primary reasons why pots have always existed, and I want to use those things. And so I've made vessels, and I've put things in them symbolically and ritualistically, and for many years. And so really, this is a continuation of that. You know, except the objects are not inside. They address the outside of the vessel on shelves. And for me, it's an abstract story, but it's a little bit like the Greeks who wanted to paint a story around the outside of a vessel. So I'm just doing it dimensionally, you know, kind of a sculptural language, but adorning the outside of a vessel with a sculptural language. So I hope that's kind of clear, but it's hard to talk about a 30-year history.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and your glazes are, there's a lot of depth to them. Do you want to talk about that surface or your process of glazing the moon jars?
And the crucibles too, even more so. Yeah, I do, because I'm happy to, because it's become, you know, I've had to think about a lot and engage it and try to make it meaningful. And I feel like, especially if you're older and have done something for a while and in a certain kind of territory, you get very, very, very good at it, you know. And for me, just speaking for me, virtuosity, the ability to do something extremely well is it sends a signal that things are no longer. The better I get at something, the more stiff it becomes, the less alive it is, you know. And so I have to find ways to subvert my own virtuosity with a certain set of materials or skills, techniques or whatever. So in order to do that, so I don't just repeat myself forever, get the same results pretty much forever, So the way I do it is to stop taking notes as to what I was putting on a surface. I'm incredibly intuitive. I'll take a commercial glaze and I'll just add something to it to subvert it without measuring that thing, but just try it and make adjustments maybe. I don't keep notes. I layer things extremely deep sometimes. I fire things. I'll alternate firings between a gas and electric kiln. I'll reduce. I'll fire without cones, and I don't take notes. So I can't always remember the sequence of events. If I can remember it, fine, but I'm not going to go to notes and retrace my steps and reproduce something just to get a similar effect, if I can help it, or I won't do it for very long. So I like that actually because it keeps me in a state of discovery. Like every time I open the kiln, I have no idea.
Well, it's Christmas.
Or
right.
Or what,
Happy surprise.
It's the woodshed, out to the woodshed for what you just did. And so I like it though. Yeah, when it's really interesting, it's just spellbinding. You open the kiln and my God, the transformation of materials, especially as they commingle and move and heat and atmosphere, it's magical to me because, those crucibles, they're the same materials that the crust of the earth is made out of. And like the crust of the earth was at one point in time subjected to a lot of heat, and things fuse, and then they move, And gravity causes things to move and interchange and stack and flow. And so if you look at those vessels, they're almost always, not always, but almost always straight cylinders. And all that topography, all that dimension is frequently glazed. It's stacking up, and I find ways to work with. And I come back and do very odd things in between firings. And I'll have big loaf of glaze fall off onto a shelf. And I've got powder down there so it doesn't stick. I pick it up. I take Ceraset, I slap it back on the side of a piece. I put a stainless pin through it, and I'll paint glaze over it again and fire it to the side at lower temperature. It just fuses on the body, but it becomes dimensional. So it's kind of an interesting way to create shape. We're so geared to create shape with a plastic material, clay, and I'm just making a straight walled cylinder and creating all this dimension with glaze. So I kind of like it because it's a mild thumb in the eye to the history of how things are supposed to be made, and I kind of like being in mild arguments in my work with the history of how things should be done. Sometimes it's a mild disagreement, sometimes it's a serious argument, But I like it. It helps me to kind of go against, to cut against the grain a little bit in terms of how things have always been done or supposed to be done. Gravity, like I'll fire stuff upside down, so it flows down, but when you flip it back after the firing, it's actually flowing up. And ceramics is not supposed to do that. And so that's just an argument with history and gravity and glaze and movement and stuff like that. Or discussion, I don't know if it's an argument, but so that's I like to open a kiln, see something, and not really quite understand how I got there. That's what I like the best, because I don't want to trade in party tricks too much. Party tricks are easy and they get boring. And I really like the idea of being in a position where I see something and I really love it, and it fills me full of desire. But I don't know how to reproduce it, so I've got to dream into it and try things and try other things that may take me somewhere else. And I'm really like a thirsty artist out in the desert looking for water again, trying to find water. Or if I was in Italy trying to find some vino.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like it a lot. Actually. It works for me. Keeps me excited. Yes, sir.
Definitely, yeah. So you're a father, a teacher, an artist. You're on the board of the Archie Bray Foundation and director of the CCC. How do you manage to do everything?
Grandfather too.
Grandfather as well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that I've done everything in my life well. You know, it all sounds great when you lay it out like that, but I don't know that I've been that good at everything. And I feel like you're really only able to do so many things in life really well, and it's a small number, you know. And then the more things you try to do, the more diffuse it gets, and the more one thing will suffer, you know, to the advantage of another. So I like all those roles because it makes me feel like life is full and rich, and it's like juggling raw eggs sometimes, you know, which I don't want to drop a raw egg, because the things I usually take up are important to me. I mean, it's not just the CCC. I've been running a travel program here for 25 years, visiting artist program for 25 years, making my own work and teaching full time and developing developing a facility for 30 years. I've had a lot of help recently. You know, Chris Miles has been great, come on board in the last 5 years, but up until then, it was really just me doing stuff. And so it makes me feel like life is rich, but like I said, it doesn't mean all those things are done terribly well, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's definitely hard juggling everything.
I think I can say that I have one thing that helps is if you can in life, if you can direct yourself towards things that you can almost feel devotional to, you know, like I could never believe they pay me to teach. I teach for nothing. I give it. It doesn't feel like a job. I come to work and have a lot of fun. I do have to work hard at it, but it doesn't feel like drudgery or like this horrible job where I'm counting the days to the weekend, and then I'm counting the days to my retirement, and, you know, I just can't wait to get out and be free. And so I pretty much do things that feel rewarding, you know. And I think that can give you a lot of energy for getting things done. If you feel like, you know, like running a travel program, it never rewarded me monetarily. I never took a penny out of it. I never, you know, I paid frequently company students to travel with them overseas or whatever. But I felt like the internal rewards were really rich, the kind of things that I saw happen for students, and given that I know who our students are, you know, and the kind of sacrifices they make, and the educational history of their families, where frequently they're the first person to go to college in their family. That, you know, those kind of things. When I can see how lives are changed, you know, it's really what I'm in the business of. When I can see that, the internal rewards for that kind of stuff are tremendous, and that's all I need. That gives me a lot of energy to persevere. And the same thing with being creative in the studio. And I think that's why I like the sense of discovery, you know, where it's not just the same old predictable stuff coming out of the kiln. That there's tremendous internal rewards in discovery, you know, and in helping people and being of service and teaching. I think it also gives a lot of internal rewards, you know. So I think those are the things that really motivate me. It's the sense of internal reward, and yes, I do get paid to teach. You know, I do need to make a living, but I don't do it for money. I really don't. And, I mean, funny story that the checks that we got for the United States Artist Cohort Assembly were very serious. It's a serious amount of money, and I forgot my check. I didn't even pick it up. I didn't sharing. And so everyone needs money. I'm not always entirely motivated by money. I mean, I need money and I appreciate it, and I'm thoughtful with it and all that. But I'm really kind of motivated by other things that give me a lot of energy. Even if all things fail around them, So if I make a body of work, it's a total failure in the marketplace or in the galleries, whatever. I kind of don't care, And in a certain sense, I do care. I shouldn't say that, but in a certain sense, I typically have a great time making my work, and I really enjoy it. So whatever happens after that's gravy. Is what I really should say, And if it doesn't work out, that doesn't detract from the the engagement I had with it and making it. If I hated making my work and then I got torn up by the critics and it didn't sell and blah blah blah, no one cared, then it's a total failure. But I try to make sure that my engagements in making are very satisfying and rewarding. So that's a long way of answering your question. All those things that I try to do I do them because they're rewarding to me internally, and I really that's the stuff of life. A lot of energy in that.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about the Center for Contemporary Ceramics?
The CCC. Yeah. My dear colleague Chris Miles started it. He did all the heavy lifting to get to get it named and recognized, and he had to do it on campus. It's a center. I think there's 27 or 31 centers of all different stripes on campus that serve different purposes, but there hasn't been one in the art department yet, or in the School of Art. And so Chris asked me about it, asked me if I want to be part of it, and so he put all the paperwork together and ran it through, got it signed off, and so it's official. And the whole thing, he asked me to be the first director because the whole thing is based on what's gone on here in the last 25 years. Even before that, actually, since I got here, my inclination has been to try to bring interesting people to campus always, whether it was to teach or just to work. And I was very clear about the need for both. We need interesting teachers, and we need interesting artists just working and not formally teaching academically, but just kind of teaching by example, just by working amongst the students. And it's always been my inclination that's been important. So almost from the first day I was here, I've been inviting painters. And I think 1985, when I was part-time here, I wasn't full-time yet. I invited a painter from San Francisco to come down and work, stay with me for a couple of weeks and work on how to show in clay. And so I've always seen the need for it because no matter how spectacular a curriculum is, and we have a really good comprehensive curriculum. We have a good facility, and we got a lot of good things here. But I've always felt like you okay there?
Yeah.
You good? Okay. I've always felt like that the curriculum would never give students enough. It wouldn't give them what they need in total to, especially undergrads, to go out and face the world after they finish their program here, and be armed the way I feel like students need to be armed, prepared to deal with what confronts them. So I try to plug gaps and holes in education, and certainly to have a non-academic model here for someone who's just making their work, that students can engage in different ways. But not as a teacher in a classroom who's giving them grades and giving them assignments and giving them lectures, but just working and really trying to get a lot of really diverse artists here so that they work in lots of different ways. And the same with part-time faculty, always trying to hire interesting makers. People had to make, and I give them studio space here, so they're making in the building. Full-time teachers are making in the building, and then we're bringing artists in to make in the building, and then bringing other artists in just to give lectures. So I felt like that complement of all those different voices in a given 2 or 3 year period of study for a student here was it's like that PX90 or whatever that stupid Isn't that what they call it, muscle confusion? Because they exercise just different muscle groups, kind of discordantly. And I felt like that's what I wanted to do. When I saw that infomercial, I thought, yeah, that's right. I want to do PX90 in the studio and give people muscle confusion and give them all kinds of voices in their time here, and not just have it be run based on the model of my work or my ideas about art, but that they would be exposed to lots of different voices, really diverse voices, and then they would have to sort it out. It's their job to sort it out. Of course, we try to help, but I felt like that was really a quality education, and plus, as time's gone on, we've gotten more and more serious artists here, and so they have had professional engagements, and we pair them up with students, and then the students can help them make their work, and that work frequently goes into exhibitions, actually all over the world now, and help them make it, help them finish it, and sometimes they get to deliver it to the gallery with them, and sometimes even when the gallery's been high-powered, there is a pre or an opening night dinner or a pre-opening night dinner with the gallery director and patrons and collectors and things like that, and artists. And our students will get to attend that dinner, And so that's just tremendous insight and confidence and the building of skill sets and the upping of a trajectory of vision for students and what they might want to try to accomplish, and a little money in their pocket they can get paid for helping professional artists. And it's not academic. It's not run by a class with a syllabus and a series of lectures and grades and things they have to do, papers they have to turn in and all that. It's just a real life experience that complements the abstractions of academia, where academia is better at dealing with abstractions than it is in dealing with kind of the realities on the ground. So I wanted to kind of plug that gap with that, and fill a gap with travel, and so those are the kind of the two branches of the extracurricular activity we've done here, and it's just been my inclination to do that. And I think Chris Miles wanted to institutionalize it because I've been here 30 years. This will not go on forever. It's all been run by personality, and if it's going to continue, it can't. It's not going to be run by a personality as much. So we're trying to raise money now, create an endowment, and leave the center in really good shape, so that the next person that takes it over, the next director that takes it over, can actually, fund programming. We've always done really well. We've done well without any money, really, but it will take money, and so that's what we're doing. We recently, just the building of the facility here has been fascinating for me, because when I got here, everything was indoors. This place was built by the founding faculty. They were all educated back east, and so back east, the weather's too severe. You got to put everything inside. So I got here kilns, raw materials, glazed raw materials, powders, clay mixers, all the kilns, everything indoors. And slowly, we've been getting it out. And so once we went outside, it opened up the inside for studios and workspaces, and classrooms, gallery space for the presentational work. And then the outside, a lot of space out there, we've just filled it up with kilns. I've got 30 plus kilns here, and we just got another car kiln. I'm sorry you're not here to help us, Junior, because it's a lot of fun. We picked up a big car kiln from a school that was just getting rid of it, so we grabbed it, as we've done many times now. I think this is our fourth or fifth car kiln. I'd have to stop counting, maybe fourth. And so we knocked the top off it, and we boosted the walls up, and we're going to put a new arch on it. It's all soft brick. Put a new arch on it, extend the door up, and put it from down an updraft into a downdraft, and add burners to it to kind of accommodate new space, extra added space. And so it's going to be our biggest car kiln, and it's going to be devoted to the CCC. And very big artist projects that ambitious artists might want to create, come here and work on. So we'll have our own kiln kind of dedicated to the space. That's really wonderful. So for me, I'm just continuing to do what I've always done, but trying to help Chris Miles build something that will last when I'm gone.
Yeah. I follow your the CCC on Instagram, and it's exciting to see all the progress of the kiln and the visiting artists that have been there, or the new artists that are continuing to come.
Yeah, it's exciting. I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. And then, how do you select artists to come and participate in the CCC?
Well, I travel a lot, and well, it goes back to well, it's a lot of different ways. It's not formal. It's just me meeting people and having a sense about what it might mean to bring them here. I've always, I've traveled a lot. I've been to every school in the country to talk or do something, in every art center to teach. And internationally too, all over the place. It's just been part of my life. And so everywhere I go, though, I keep an eye open. I meet somebody talented, I'm dragging them back, man. And I'm pretty serious about that. When I was at, I was invited to go to Alfred, back in, I don't know when it was, and to do a talk. And so of course when I'm there, I want to meet all the grads. And there's 16 grads there. So I'm going face to face, and Kristen Morgan was a grad, and I got to meet her. I was absolutely, almost immediately stunned by the quality of her artistic vision, her hands, and I just knew. I said, this amazing young artist is coming back to Long Beach, and so I invited her to come back, and she was in residence for a year or two, and I said, "Do you want to teach?" And she taught, and we were able to hire her finally. She retired after 10 years, but made a huge difference here. So frequently, when I'm traveling, I'll meet people, and I'll invite them to come back, and then try. I want to be surrounded by talented people here. I think that's been essential, for me, for my own kind of sense of well-being. I want to be around really talented people. I like it. It doesn't threaten me. So that's been my inclination. And then, as we become more and more well-known, that people, of course, will apply. And they have. I get emails and texts and things like that, and Instagram messages a lot. And people are asking, what is the center about? How can I apply? How can I be a resident there? And so I'll answer them, but it's based on a couple things. These days, I am more interested in bringing people here that were not raised in the field of ceramics. I feel like, so I don't want people that ran all their degrees through ceramics programs, from AA to BA to BFA to MA to MFA, straight run through in ceramics. I'm more interested in people that either maybe have no formal education, or they grew up as painters or sculptors, and now as mature artists, they're turning to clay because it's a very interesting material, and they bring mature artistic ideas to ceramics. But they may not have a place to do it, and so I try to find people that are talented, mature, not raised in the field of ceramics, and that are kind of naturally ambitious. And then we bring them in, and we try our very best to help them do that. We support them in every way possible. I don't charge them for anything really, as much as I can not charge people for wiring or space or anything. That's pay a little bit for student help, but if they want it. But I want people to come here and kind of raise their game. I don't want them to just come here and make a bunch of the same old stuff they've always made, but so we can help them elevate their vision and their ambition and make things they never thought they could make. That's what I like to see, because it serves our students to watch artists do that. It serves the artists to do it, and it serves the field. It helps grow the field. And I think that the thing that is really interesting these days about the field is that you've got all these people participating now. They've always been there, but not these kind of numbers and this kind of visibility, but people from outside the field, visitors, and they're just bringing artistic ideas to the field. They're not coming to it thinking that they have to quote the history of ceramics or vessels or pottery or anything. They just bring mature ideas to a very kind of fascinating material base, and they come work. And I feel like it's my job to never say no. I don't want to say, no, you can't do that. There's a lot of craft dogma, that kind of dictates the kinds of things you think you can do and can't do. It's like, no, you can't do that. No, you shouldn't do this, or this won't work. There's a lot of that, and I don't like it per se. We can't ruin equipment here, so certain things we have to abide by. But I want to listen to what an artist, when they come, I want to listen to what they say about what they think they want to make. And then I want to help make it. I don't care how hard it is, And we've got some pretty good challenges, but that's part of the excitement. And if they can put up with a little bit of failure sometimes, then we'll get it right, most of the time. So I don't know if I got rambled on there.
No, that was good. I think you started to touch on my next question, but how do you define contemporary ceramics, and what is unique to contemporary ceramics that we haven't experienced in the past?
Well, contemporary, if I'm going to be flip with you, contemporary ceramics is stuff that's made right now, that's contemporary ceramics. So, contemporary ceramics is defined by the fact that it needs to be contemporary, made now, and needs to be largely ceramic, probably. If it's not ceramics, then you get into tricky semantics, like Kristen Morgan really can't call her work ceramics, technically, by textbook definition, because she doesn't fire it, She has fired work, actually. She makes cups that are beautiful, but fired ceramics. But she doesn't fire her work. She just uses clay as a material and stabilizes it by other means than firing it, which is how you stabilize it traditionally. So, her work is sculpture. It uses clay. Kind of rough to call it ceramics. I think it's a misnomer and misdirects the kind of attention she should be getting for her work. That's the broadest definition I can give you. Largely made out of fired clay and made in the moment. Did you ask me what's new in the field that we haven't seen?
Yeah, or unique or new that we haven't experienced in the past?
Well, history's not dead to me. I fear history is a little bit dead, but not to me. And while I'm not a scholar, I would never lay claim to being a scholar. I'm very interested in history and ceramics, and so certainly it's not new. There have been artists, who have been trained in the field of art, Cezanne, back into the 19th century, if you like, and probably before that, who worked with clay and made stuff and didn't make it according to the kind of the rules of craft and working with clay today. So there've always been artists doing that, and Picasso, Miro, there's a whole bunch of them really, and fabulous stuff. So it's not new that artists are working with clay, but they're kind of working with clay in more numbers now than I think than we've ever seen. It's become very popular for a lot of reasons. One is because there's a market for it, because you get all kinds of artists that maybe they make paintings for $100,000, but they'll make a piece of ceramics for $25,000, and it helps open up marketplace for artists and for galleries. And so they like it on economic terms. But a lot of artists like working with it because it's so anti-digital. So much about the hand, so hard to control, so immediate, such a recorder of the moment information, and it's reversible. If you're making something you don't like it, wedge it up. It's very, very unique, and I think it's very fascinating for a lot of artists to work with. And I think that, and so there are a lot of mature artists and immature artists too, working with clay and kind of bringing a new kind of a voice and understanding to it in the moment. And that is something the field's taking note of, and that craft, the appearance of craft, it may not be as important as a lot of people think. And, that's very upsetting to some people and very liberating to others. I had another point I was interested in making, but I've forgotten what it is. Sorry.
So this dialogue with other artists that aren't particularly trained in the background of ceramics, having those kind of conversations, you believe that's furthering the field of ceramics?
Well, yeah, I feel like there's an impact. For one thing, the thing I wanted to say, I just remembered it, is that for one thing, the quote unquote kind of high craft movement that ran across a lot of boundaries in craft materials, clay, fiber, wood, metal, that was really went on from the probably had its seeds in the 60s, 70s, 80s, into the 90s, and then kind of done. When that went and things really changed, it's when most of the medium specific galleries kind of stopped being medium specific. They either started picking up different kinds of art, or they went out of business or something. And so when the medium specific galleries, the Garth Clarks and the Frank Lloyds, in the beginning Frank was medium specific, but when those people were done, then ceramics didn't have a place to hide. It didn't have a natural home in the gallery world anymore with all the medium specific galleries. It didn't have a place to hide either. And so now, because those galleries don't exist, most ceramists have to just think, and I think this is really the big shift and really actually fairly important and kind of a wonderful day, a new day. But most artists, most ceramists or artists that work with clay, even if it's exclusively clay, have got to go out and just compete with other artists for a voice in the contemporary dialogue. They can't go hide in a ceramics gallery, a medium specific gallery, and so they have to go compete with art and artists. And I think that's just fantastic. And most galleries now, it didn't used to be the case, but most galleries are willing to entertain one or two or three or four or five people that work with clay. It's become kind of an equal art making material now to anything else. And so I think that's a huge shift. And that's just a kind of a level of acceptance now that I don't think is going to change. And you have a lot of artists working with clay. You have almost every gallery showing some kind of clay. I'm talking about LA and New York, mostly. I don't know. I'm not so sure about the flyover states. But so I think that is starting to, because it's very different. If you're going to approach a craft gallery for representation, that's a different kind of culture that you're joining, and your behavior merits it. And if you're going to go join an art gallery, though, you're going to have to think differently and behave differently. And so I think that's going to have some kind of importance on how the field gets shaped, I believe. Sorry, my endings are abrupt. It's like, bam.
No, that's fine. No, that was insightful. What do you envision for this CCC, and are there any immediate future plans or goals that you're working toward?
Well, we're trying to raise money. We've got one very generous, extremely generous anonymous donor who's put $500,000 on the table as a matching grant. So we're working hard to try to find money, which is $5,000 come in yesterday, this morning, and so that becomes $10,000. It goes into an endowment, and then the endowment will be used for operating expenses eventually when we draw on it. And so, that's the big thing. We're trying to expand the facility and draw up all the protocols about how we operate and raise money to ensure the future success of the thing. And like we've done work intensives in the summer. We don't schedule classes. We just try to bring in a lot of really interesting artists, let them work with students, let it take on a life of its own. And we work together, eat together during the summer months, and we got students coming in from Taiwan, China, mainland China, and Korea, and to work with us, work with our own students. And basically the thing is student-centric in a way. I like situations that are win-win-win, and that's where the program wins. If someone comes here and works, the program wins, the artist wins, and the students win. Everyone benefits from it. So those are the kind of people I like to have here. And We're going to continue to bring in people, and I'm with an orientation ever so slightly to people that were not reared in the field, so educated in the field. And also, if we can help them produce work for exhibition, we like that a lot. That's real. That's putting it on the line. We like that, and so those are the kind of proposals that we will continue to entertain. Otherwise, we're going to have a fundraiser, things like that. But I don't think you're asking about that. It's just to continue to do what we've been doing for a long time, actually, and try to do it really well and in such a way as the students benefit and the field of ceramics benefits, and contemporary too.
When are the work intensives happening this summer? What are the dates for those?
The work intensive this summer is it's all summer, and it's going to be June 1st to August 15th, and we have all kinds of assorted artists coming in from all over. Actually, I keep inviting more people, and then these groups from Asia coming and going. But this is not open to the public, so I don't want that to be misunderstood. This is not. You can't sign up for like a workshop, and we've done that in the past, but we're not doing that now. It's really for the benefit of our students. It goes back to the muscle memory thing. I want all kinds of interesting makers here that are not structured. They're not giving formal demos. They're not giving formal critiques. They're not giving assignments. They're just working. If you want to join them, great, and work. My fear after watching the enterprise that is higher education for a long time, being part of it, and then watching it and participating in it. My fear is that I see not just higher education, but I see too many young people that come to us and they're way too passive. It disturbs me a little bit, and I feel like the system kind of creates passivity. It's like you just sit there and wait until I tell you what it is, how it works, how to do it, how to get it right. And then after I tell you, oh yes, then you can go out and take a shot at it. But you better not. You better sit there and wait for me to tell you before you take a shot. And I don't like that. I don't like it's too passive for me. I think if you want to know something, go learn it. And I'll say, I never thought you were passive at all in your education. You're actually rare. I wish more students went about their education the way you did. You weren't not at all passive. So that's why I don't like to structure everything for everyone, but I want to put them in a position where they can get something out of it, put something into it.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Yeah, the time I was at Long Beach, it was a beautiful experience. I mean, part of the travel program, all the visiting artists that you bring in, definitely was a life-changing experience, and I do thank you for that.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. I feel like the whole thing's just been an adventure, and I think those are if a teacher can go on an adventure with a group of students, it doesn't get better than that. Everybody learns, it's not stillborn, where everyone, the teacher knows what's going to happen before it happens. I feel like I've never liked that, and this program is always a little bit on the edge of an adventure, for good and bad maybe, but mostly good.
Yeah, and definitely how the whole environment of the studio, it's like it's always in flux. Like the time I was there, it's like I went through probably 6 or 7 studio spaces, and they were always evolving or always expanding and always kind of building towards a bigger and better kind of work environment for everybody.
Yeah, that's right. You run out of questions yet, Junior? Jesus Christ.
No, we can go all day, Tony. So definitely the community of the community within a program is very important. But what does a community mean within the program, and why is the community important, especially within ceramics?
Well, because people that work in ceramics are mammals and reptiles, and so it works both, for and against the community. But for the most part, people in ceramics are very sweet, very nice, and thoughtful, and they help each other. And we are not like photographers who you can just strap on a camera and take off and do your artwork, while you're walking. You don't have to stop if you don't want to. And so it's very solitary for a lot of, for painters and writers and a lot of other people. But it's very communal for us because we have to be in one place where there's a lot of equipment. It's heavy duty, sometimes a little dangerous, a lot of mass and weight, and things where you need help. And so we're all there to kind of help each other because we're there to make our work in one place. And it attracts a certain kind of communal person, and it kind of works best when it's harmonious. So I've always felt like the studio is it's like a garden, and a garden is a place when it's really humming along, where it's clean, it's well watered, well fed, good light, good air movement, good soil, good, and someone cares and takes care of it, and so that's the way the studio is, and I've always felt proprietary about that, being careful about keeping the soil and the air and the water and the fertilizer and all that stuff good, and keeping people in a state of being able to make, with excitement and with all the resources they need, and with kind of a community spirit that helps everyone be more functional. So that has to be orchestrated a little bit. Sometimes things go a little too far south, and you got to deal with it, or just keep a watchful eye on it most of the time and make sure things are healthy.
Okay, I got one last question for you, Tony. What can we as a ceramic community do to increase diversity in ceramics between artists thinking and making?
So the diversity means to continue to grow, participate. The word diversity is interesting these days, and what it's used, and I do feel like that, like the ceramics community is really lacks quite a bit of diversity in terms of different ethnic groups that are involved in making ceramics on the university level in ceramics in America. And when people come with their experiences, their points of views, their background education, and things like that, and I think the more diverse those people are that come to it and are welcomed into it, the more diverse the ideas will be in the field, they'll be less monochromatic. And so I'm just taking the word you use, diverse, and applying it to the general population of the studio, balance, and who's there, and who has access, and who gets to, who allows those voices to be real. I think, we've taken students to Venice Biennale since 1997. And it's almost all of them. We've been, it's almost all since '97. And the thing that's really interesting is when you cross the bridge over there on the backside of the Biennale and go into the Egyptian pavilion, and you're going to see art that is very different. Usually, the way people think, the way people make, the kind of histories they react to, even the material base, and all these things that like you're not going to ordinarily have access to contemporary Egyptian art or Iraqi art or something like that. You'd have a hard time finding it, and you'd have a hard time finding it. So when you see the collective of voices at a place like the Venice Biennale, and all the different ways people think about art and behave artistically, it's remarkably refreshing and exciting.